Nerd On the Podcast is proudly partnered with Apogee Electronics and Odyssey Headphones, leaders in the field of audio.
In preparation of this episode, you went up and into
a plane.
with a plane and didn't vomit. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Nerd On the Podcast you didn't need but deserve, where all levels of nerd are welcome. It is time to turn up your 80s rock music and ride your motorcycle into the Californian sunset, because we have the need for speed. In today's topic, Top Gun.
Nice.
Danger zone!
But before we get into that, I am one of your hosts. My name is Ali.
And I am Tom Cruise.
And
Tom.
I am Caitlin. Not Chris.
I'm Corey Cruz.
And I'm Josh. Just
Cruz.
Josh.
Cruise.
And this episode is brought to you in part by the members of the Nerd On Nation that is powered by Patreon.
Patreon.
As a member of the Nerd On Nation, you do get fun perks like bonus content that is only available to you. You get discounts on merch. You get early access to all of our episodes. You do get so much. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, wow, there's a lot. But a really great one that I love to talk about is that you get private servers in the Discord server, in which you can talk with us and other members of the Nerd On Nation. But do consider joining the Nerd On Nation, because it does help us to be the best that we can be and to continue to grow, especially at these crazy times where, so much. But check that out.
Wild and crazy times.
Wild and crazy time. So check that out, nerdon.io/Patreon, and check out the Discord, nerdon.io/Discord. And our partners, Apogee, who have equipped us with these amazing microphones, the Hype Mic. I cannot suggest them enough. If you are looking
recommend
to...
them.
Huh?
Or even recommend them.
Yeah, I can't suggest or recommend them enough. But they're a perfect use for podcasting, for streaming, for any sort of recording needs.
Or running a Dungeons and Dragons game with your 6-year-old nephew.
Yeah,
Aww.
perfect.
Hell yeah.
But
Or
also
just talking with your friends.
That too.
Also, our friends over at Odyssey Headphones, who have equipped us with the LCD ones. And Odyssey is Audeze. I know that it's not always clear, but it was made clear to me recently that it's not always clear. So yeah, check them out. They're a wonderful company.
I actually just had to send back my Turtle Beaches because they had been pushing on my ear, the cartilage of my ear, so much that my ears got sore.
Oh.
So I've been using these for everything. And it's
Ollie
wonderful. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
And
I know what it's like now.
Shout out. Super comf.
that is the housekeeping.
They taste like butter.
They taste like butter
That's
in my ear balls.
Can't believe it doesn't smell like butter. So everyone that is new to the show, we're going to go into our first few segments of the show, because Top Gun is we're doing this episode because, one, America holiday, but also because the new film would have came out soon around this time, but things happened and it didn't.
Happy Independence Day to everybody in the States, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Howdy.
I just want to do the Tom Cruise, real fast thing. And it's like, oh, it's so cool. Anyways, so at the end of this episode, we are going to rate it from a 0 to 5. And right now we're going to go around our screens and
Guess that
Grump.
I got the need
Dun,
for
dun.
grumps.
and blue sex scenes. Anyways, so if
Lots
you
of
are
tongue.
brand spanking new
much
to the
tongue.
show, welcome everyone. Like I said, we're gonna go around and guess. So since I just explained it, and we're going to have a little thing from Corey later on. But anyways, I'm gonna go first. I'm going to guess that the person
we
who's
are.
going to be the grump of this episode is going to be none other than Caitlin.
I knew immediately. I knew from the way that you looked into the webcam that you were going to choose me.
Do you know that my eyes are
yeah.
this way for you, by the way?
That doesn't matter. Whatever camera you looked into,
she
I
saw
knew.
into your soul,
I
and
saw.
she picked out the name
She saw into my brown eye.
like a clairvoyant.
No.
Caitlin,
all
who you
right.
got?
I
And
think
screamed into
it's
it.
gonna be Josh.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Josh, who you got?
I think that it will be Caitlin.
No. I just
Okay.
want a really strong
Wow.
response.
Don't hit
Ali?
the mic.
It's hard to. I mean, I'm gonna go with Caitlin too.
Rude.
Yo, everyone
I don't
wants
wanna
me
talk
on their
about it yet.
presidential campaign because I get everyone to vote for the right person
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
or the wrong
Um,
person. So
If anything, you should take it as a compliment. 'cause
I'm
we know you-
actually going to say Tom on this one.
that's also pretty smart.
How
Um,
does it feel?
So
Feels
with
good.
that,
Feels like the need of speed.
I'd like to give you a reason to come on over to the Nerd On Nation. It's a fun old place to be. It's a good group to be a part of, and
Hal Val Neighbor.
you get to vote every week when we record an episode on who you think is going to be the Grump of the Week. And if you get it right, you get a shout out on the episode. It's pretty exciting. And this week, the Nerd On Nation has voted for no other than Caitlin,
Gosh.
also Josh, also
What?
Ali, also Tom, and me for a 5-way tie.
Whoa. Is that the first time?
That's
That
amazing.
was the first 5-way tie we've ever had.
Wow.
Shout
So-
out to all 5 of them, though.
Everybody gets a point.
Yeah.
nice.
Yay.
So this is the order in which, because everyone has a
We-
point here, this is the order of which we will be giving our ratings at the end of the show. It'll be me and Ali first, then between Tom and Josh, you two duke it out, and then Caitlin last with 4. And that's that.
Okay.
Guess that Grump.
Let's do it.
That was the book closing.
Which is funny because I'm going to need that for my notes in a minute.
Yep.
So
Uh-huh.
I'll need
I
to find
wondered
that
why you
page
did
again.
that.
So now that that's out of the way, we're going to go to our complete spoiler of that sequence segment. And that's going to be our initial, initial responses and first
Reactions.
First reactions. That's
First.
I was like, I flipped them around
Initial-
before. I'm like, I want to
initial
keep that. So
reactions.
initial reactions and our
Yeah.
first impressions.
Time
So since I went first last time, Caitlin should go first on her
Oh.
first impressions.
I don't know which way she is on my Zoom.
Just flip Corey every time he points a direction.
Yeah.
Swap them.
You know, if we had like a
So-
video budget, we'd give Julie so that we can all just be floating
I
heads the
wish.
entire time.
One
We would
day,
be on
Julie. one day.
like memojis or whatever, or like
Oh, yeah.
emojis, whatever.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
So, Caitlin?
So my first knowledge of Top Gun, the movie, was going to Kings Island because there was a roller coaster ride called Top Gun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's all I knew
Shout out
about
to Great America.
this movie until watching it for this episode.
Mhm.
I knew that there were these guys, and they're like, we like fast stuff, and
And
we want to be in
volleyball. Yeah.
planes.
We like
and
fast
the
stuff.
government somehow is around, and stars are there, and that's kind of all I knew. So then watching this, I was like, oh boy, I'm sure the hype's going to be way more than what this movie is. And then I watched it, and I was like,
Hell yeah.
that was really cool. And I was like kind of frustrated by it because most of the time, like, I'm very not fond of the
Machismo.
the machismo broy kind of asshole behavior.
Gratuitous.
It's really over the top, and I've been around
Amounts.
a lot of people who take too much confidence from being in the army or whatever.
Navy.
It's what
Army,
I call the
Navy,
Tony Scott
in the
arm
army-
any,
in
needle.
the armed
type,
forces.
any
Forces.
type of armed force. Like I've seen a lot of too much machismo and it being a bad thing, and some of this was highlighted in there. But I thought that was going to be like the most of it, and then you kind of get to the heart and the humanity there as well, and that just like surprised me very pleasantly. And it once I read more about what happened because of this movie, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that 100%. So I'll leave it at that. That was my initial
right.
reaction.
Very cool.
Go ahead, Corey.
I first saw this movie when I was 10-ish, maybe 9, 10, 11, in that in that-
Sexy.
range. And as a 8, 9, or 10-year-old or whatever it was,
Impressionable boy.
fucking awesome. Like flying planes. I think this movie may have implanted my love of bomber jackets. Which if anyone knows, my wife got me one for Christmas a couple years ago, and it's been my favorite jacket ever since. So I think that may have spawned from this movie. And I was all about it. I was about this movie, like planes, motorcycles, there's singing,
Automobiles.
there's planes, trains, and automobiles. And so I was totally sold on this. I was also, prior to seeing this movie, my dad had showed me Rain Man. So I was already familiar with Tom Cruise. And this is, obviously before Rain Man was filmed. So it was kind of cool to see him a little younger, a little like
The little unibrow.
very different role from his role in Rain Man. So yeah, and then rewatching it now, very different vibe that I got from this movie, being someone who is now 20 years older and who likes to think of himself as someone who enjoys ingesting and dissecting and learning film. So we'll get into that a little bit later.
All right.
Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember specifically when I first saw it. I do remember watching it at some point when I was a kid, and like Corey said, absolutely loving it. I mean, you've got fast jets. My dad was in the Navy, so that was kind of like oh, I know that thing. I've been on an aircraft carrier. That's cool.
Man, from that opening scene, you're just like,
Oh, so good.
And I think that this movie might have imbued me with a love for aviator sunglasses. I think that's probably
Aviators.
I love aviator sunglasses, or just like big sunglasses.
I was trying to find some for this episode, and I don't think I have any anymore.
Yeah, me neither. But yeah, I mean, I remember loving it, and to watch it now, being in my 30s, and it's interesting to watch it now. It is something that I would consider a classic, and so it's interesting to watch it now. We'll get into that later, but it was fun to watch it again. It was just, there's so many moments where you're like, yes, and then doing research about it, you're like, oh, hell yeah. And I know that he's crazy, but I like Tom Cruise. I love Val Kilmer.
Dude, Val Kilmer has a very special place in my heart.
Seriously, Val Kilmer in the 80s, like real genius. I mean, watch that.
I mean,
so good.
I almost
Even later on, man, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah.
Oof.
Well, seeing him, it's just like, man, I get why they had him as Batman. I totally get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's such a gorgeous, chiseled man.
We cannot not reference Tombstone, though.
Oh yeah,
Probably the Val Kilmer piece de
I haven't
resistance.
seen it.
of course.
What?
We gotta do an
It's
episode.
so good.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's
I
so
haven't
good.
seen it either.
It was on sale on
It's so
iTunes
good.
for
It's so good.
$5 the other day, and I
Was it?
bought the
Oh,
hell
damn.
out of it. Yeah.
That'll be a good time.
Yeah, it's so good. I'll go next. I haven't watched. I didn't watch this film like in my younger years. I definitely watched it like closer to high school or college. So
So is it one of those
Maybe.
ones you saw on like USA or Turner Classic Movies?
no, I think I watched it on a recommendation because when in high school I was in ROTC program, Army branch, right? And so like we ended up watching a lot of like military films and stuff like that, and like a bunch of my friends watched a lot of military films, and so like the whole what Caitlin's talking about, the American machismo of like armed force people, like was rampant during my later years of school, and I remember like hearing words and like every branch has shit to say about each other. That's just a thing. It's a camaraderie kind of thing, it's like police versus
It's a ribbon.
firefighters during
It's like,
football, all that stuff. So yeah, it's
Good
that kind of
old-fashioned
thing.
ribbon.
Yeah. And watching a Navy thing or watching an Air Force thing, we're like, whatever, right? But so watching this in that context, like this is probably still the time where I was like just watching films to watch films and enjoying them and loving them. But now watching it, I really got to see a little bit more of what the directorial side of what Tony Scott was doing and how it kind of like laid the groundwork for all his films, which is really great and wonderful. Understanding that we're still in spoiler-free territory, I'm going to try to stay away from everything, but like definitely watching it just for the filmmaking aspects of it, it's like such a wonderful film to watch. And then seeing it where it lays in the cosmos of pop culture is like really huge too, because it's like, it's as Corey said, it's infinitely quotable, and you could just take anything from it and be like, cool, I love it. And there's just a lot of cool, wonderful, beautiful things in it that really, when I'm watching it for this episode, I was like, man, this was huge. I can definitely feel like how huge this film was.
I do love that the real
no.
Top Gun students aren't allowed to quote this movie.
Well, there's a $5 fine.
Yeah.
They are. They can quote it all they want,
Really?
but there's a
Yeah.
$5 fine.
Wait,
yeah.
whoa. Back
At the
it
Top
up.
Gun
Is that
school.
real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the Top Gun school that they portray in this movie is real. And
Caitlin,
if
do you not
quote
realize that we've
Top
only
Gun
been
there.
doing like autobiographical films? this
Also-
entire time.
I will like add to mine. It's cool to see a movie that's based in San Diego, where I grew up.
Oh,
so
yeah,
there
of
were
course.
some
For sure.
places that I was like, oh hey, I know where that
You
is.
get a little rep-
or like
a little
Miramar,
rep in
like I know that base. Like I've been to
Yeah.
that base. Like whoa.
Nice.
Anyway,
Oh, and also I gotta just say one real quick thing. Like Michael Ironsides always gets me in a good way. So
Dude,
that's it
Yeah.
for me. Ollie.
shout out to him and The Machinist.
oh yeah,
Top Gun. This is a great. I mean, I think it's a great film, but it's something that it's been with me for a while. I've seen it a few times, but I saw it back. I think it was like around college. I was going through my like 80s and 90s action phase, and I was catching up to everything that I had missed.
hell yeah.
So things like even like Terminator 1, like I had never seen, and things like that. So I kind of was going through and like Lethal Cop and all this stuff, and Hunt for Red October, and this was all part of that. And Tony Scott's like visuals and directorial style is something that I'm a huge fan of. It sort of reminds me of, I mean, I'm sure there's some inspiration with like, in Michael Bay, journey. I'm sure he took some inspiration or vice versa or something, because you can definitely feel that. And, to the point of like the machismo, it's there, but it's like, I said it a little early, but it was a little muffled, but it's sort of like that Tony Scott fine needle that he kind of like, he doesn't like make it overbearing.
Michael Bay
I
was
don't-
Pearl Harbor, right?
Yeah. Michael Bay was
Yes.
Pearl Harbor.
You could see everything
see
from
the
Pearl Harbor
seeds.
taken from this.
But it's like, okay, you let this, bloom too much, or this
Yeah.
Ollie.
whatever you planted,
Parallax it
got
instead.
crazy. Yeah.
Ollie, have you
Exactly.
seen the Denzel Washington movie Man on Fire?
Hell
I
yeah,
have.
baby.
That is like his visuals in that are.
Oh,
And-
Oh yeah.
I mean,
What
that's
is it?
seen-
Unstoppable?
I've seen more, and this probably applies to a lot of people. You've probably seen a lot more Tony Scott movies
then you think.
than you think. He's
Yeah.
produced like a crap ton, and also directed a crap ton. And if you thought like, if you've ever seen a
R.I.P.
movie that you're like, maybe it's not my favorite movie, but it had a really cool style, and like it sold the cool more than you could ever like imagine that it
Or
could.
it had a
It was
dope
probably him.
soundtrack.
It was probably
Yeah,
him.
like-
Because anywhere from like
An
the soundtrack,
Oscar-winning
like
soundtrack?
coming back to Top Gun, like
Excuse me.
coming back to Top Gun, like the music, it just like gives you, maybe it's nostalgia, I don't know, but it just feels right and it just feels good. And then when you see like planes against, like that are silhouetted against a sunset, it's like he brings this.
Spoilers.
Okay.
Well, the
Oh
way
my
they use their
gosh.
telephoto lenses too, so that the background is flying by, but the plane is perfectly
Yeah,
in,
they
in
really,
focus is really amazing.
One thing in this, and that kind of gets me excited for the sequel, is like the technical aspect of the dogfights is so impressive in this. Like, and it feels very accurate. Like I didn't like
They were up there.
look up every single like line that they spoke to each other, but there was a line that was like, where we say, like break high and ride, scare him with the missile lock, like scaring a guy with the missile lock, like that blew my mind, like, and it was just so fun to watch them kind of be experts at their craft and kind of get that first-hand experience of like what it's like to be a fighter pilot. And I think it really sold that in a really, really nice way. Of course, it's got that romantic spin on it, but I think it ended up with a really
There's a
great product.
fun fact about this is that all of the actors who were required to be in planes in the movies actually got flown up, and they had to create a new camera kit to be put inside one of the planes to be filmed. And Goose was the only actor to not vomit when he was taken up in a jet plane, and because they experienced certain
Hell yeah.
G's and stuff
Gs.
like that, and
Right.
they would do controlled spins, and Goose was the only one to not puke.
Throw up.
In prep for this
Everyone else did.
episode, I watched a lot of the behind the scenes for the next one coming out, and
Cool.
Tom Cruise had to do the whole mentorship thing where he was like telling all the actors like, "This is what's going to happen to you," and it was really kind of
This
cool to
is
see
what's
him
gonna
take that
happen.
reign.
I thought you
Yeah,
said.
and
I thought you were
like-
about to say in preparation of this episode, you went up and into
In a plane?
with a
To
plane
a
and didn't
Started
vomit.
flying around.
Here's another fun fact, though.
When
is
we
that
got a
Tom
huge budget,
Cruise-
I'll do that.
Tom Cruise didn't want to do the movie, and the director asked him to just go up on a flight with one of the naval flyers. And as soon as he landed, the story goes that he got out of the plane and sprinted to a payphone to call him to tell him he wants to do it, and
He knew what
has
he was
to
going to do
the
for the
movie.
rest of his life.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's so Tom Cruise getting out of a plane, sprinting Probably
he's
there's
sprinting.
a camera dolling. You know, with the whole
but he
thing.
ran to the closest payphone
You
and
know.
called them immediately and was like, yes, let's do it. I
Oh,
want
With
in.
his like
Payphone.
upward sprint. Yeah.
That's right.
Wow.
So with all that being said, now I kind of gave you an idea of who our grump is going to be and all our ratings. Who our grump is going to be and all
Who
the
our
ratings.
grump is gonna be.
I'm just like opposite of Stewie. I don't use the H too well. And so
Same
now
as
that brings
Stewie.
us to our next two segments, which are going to be our brief synopsis and then also our production. So take it away.
I'm doing the brief synopsis, and this is how it goes. The Top Gun Naval
just got
Fighter
so
Weapons School
clinical.
is where the best of the best train to refine their elite flying skills. When hotshot fighter pilot Maverick Tom Cruise is sent to the school, his reckless attitude and cocky demeanor put him at odds with the other pilots, especially the cool and collected Iceman, played by Val Kilmer. But Maverick isn't only competing to be the top fighter pilot, he's also fighting for the attention of his beautiful flight instructor, Charlotte, or Charlie, Blackwood, played by Kelly McGillis.
Well done.
That was like William Shatner reading.
It is.
Played by-
It's
But
Yeah.
nicer.
Yeah.
The
Production.
The production, please.
Of these things. Distributed by a very small company, Paramount Pictures.
Oh, yeah.
Known for the indie films Titanic, Transformers, and Star Trek.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Directors Tony Scott, famous for The Last Boy Scout, True Romance, Enemy of the
Yes.
State. Producers, another unknown name here, Jerry Bruckheimer. Who knows?
Huh.
Who
I
knows who
haven't
that
heard of
is? He's done some movies, something called Pirates of the Caribbean,
Oh, interesting.
Armageddon, Con Air. The other producer, Don Simpson, famous for Beverly Hills Cops, one of my personal favorites. The Rock and Bad Boys. Writers, Jim Cash, known for Anaconda, Dick Tracy, Turner and Hooch.
Oh,
Solid. And Jack Epps Jr., The Flintstones in Viva Rock
Viva
Vegas.
Rock Vegas.
Wow.
Legal Eagle and Hawaii Five-0 episodes. Shout out to a Steve's. Cast Tom Cat Cruise, known for Risky Business, The Firm, Interview with the Vampire, Kelly McGillis, Witness, The Accused, Made in Heaven, Val Kilmer, Tombstone, The Saint, and Batman
God.
Forever. Baby!
Okay, guys.
You knew this, Tom.
Anthony Edwards, Revenge of the Nerds, Designated Survivor, ER.
Yes.
And Tom Skerritt for Alien, Contact, and MASH. The release date was May 16th, 1986. Runtime is 110 minutes. The budget was $15 million, and it grossed $356.8 million.
Oh, so it did okay.
It didn't do great, no. Rotten Tomatoes score, 54% critics, 83% audience. And that's the game.
I see.
All-
if I
all
could
I can
imagine
think
the
about-
critics would be like, "It was okay," and the audience is like, "Yeah."
We mentioned this before the show, but they would set up recruitments outside of movie theaters, and the recruitment for naval flight was increased by 500%, so much so that they canceled a planned commercial for recruitment because it was, and I quote them on this, redundant because
Wow.
Top Gun was out.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, imagine what Transformers did. And like, I remember being in high school and like all my friends going into the military. I'm like, I wonder if that had anything to do with it, you know?
Also, it came out around Veterans Day. I don't know if it was a thing at that. I don't know when Veterans Day was established, but May 16th, and it's about the Army.
You mean Memorial Day?
That's what I meant to say. What did I say?
It's been around for a while.
Veterans Day.
Veterans Day.
Veterans Day for
That's
those who
different.
live, memorials for
It's
those who are not.
A little exactly. There we go.
But yeah, that's the
Oh,
production.
close.
Close
By
enough.
the time of this recording,
good for both.
Memorial Day wasn't too far behind. So like me being in RTC, I'm like and some people are like, what did it do and all that stuff? Like for me, like you either were in a parade or you went to decorate graves. Those are two things you did. And so I'm
Yeah,
like, all
very
right, I know
different.
which one I did. Yeah, so let's move on to the meat and potatoes of the show, which is going to be our favorite parts, favorite characters, our qualms, and then finally we rate it. So who wants to go first?
So this
favorite
is the
parts?
spoilers.
Spoiler-free country, baby. We're
No,
going
it's
into
not.
enemy territory.
Spoiler
Or
country.
spoiler country.
Spoiler-rich environment.
Spoiler country.
Spoiler
We're going to go
rich.
against the
Spoiler
MIGs
crunchy.
in that country. That's where we're going. Spoilers, baby.
Crunchy.
I'll start with one.
Okay.
Favorite part of mine is it's a little thing. I mean, anything Goose did was fantastic by my end.
I can
Like
see
marrying
that.
Meg Ryan?
When
That's a
Tom
little
Cruise Tom Cruise is talking about, he's like, I saw, and he goes, we
They just kept stacking
Thank
the
you.
good on him, didn't they?
And then when they get yelled at and he's leaving, he's like, "Do you have that number for that truck driving service? They teach you how to drive
So good.
trucks because I think I'm gonna need that."
Yeah.
So much for a
I love it.
flyby, right?
Yeah, and
But it's like,
he's so good.
he's still
he
like
is-
positive about it in a weird way.
He is the Mercutio of this story. So good they had to get
Yeah.
rid of him because you
Yeah.
wouldn't care about anyone else.
Yeah.
That's 100% true for me. Like if they kept him to the
Mhm.
end of the movie and Tom died, I'd be
You'd be
like, we
rooting-
got
yeah.
Goose though. We have Goose.
I mean,
Wow.
They have Goose, the day is good.
That
Yeah.
reminds me of
I'm-
one of my favorite parts is when Goose is basically telling Maverick, like, listen, you can't do this anymore. Like, I've got a family. I've
first
got
scene?
like that very
The real talk.
real moment where he has to tell his teammate or his flymate, like his co-pilot, like,
Time to
listen,
grow up.
yo, we can't
Can't
do
pull
this.
that
This
shit.
is the serious business now.
I would actually say that's where the story actually starts.
Oh,
like
yeah.
the plot is
Mhm.
happening, but
Mhm.
this is where the story is where the characters start to develop because they set up everything where it's like, here are the players and all that stuff. And then when Goose comes into this house and says like, can't sleep, blah, 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 and then all of a sudden that happens. And then I was like,
How do you say
this
it?
is the story. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
the climax
sounds
isn't
about right.
isn't about him
Dude.
getting the number one seed. It's about, his relationship with Iceman, I think.
But also him growing as a
Or himself and his
development
demons.
as
And
a
himself, yeah.
person.
Yeah.
But I meant,
Oh,
like,
yeah, I was going to say
Climactically at the end there.
Oh yeah,
It-
yeah.
I think that's more of Iceman's development. That's Iceman's story where he has to realize like, you could be my wingman, you could be mine, and all that shit. But it's like
Mhm.
he has to accept that, and that's kind of the whole thing where it's like a footloose in flying.
He learns by
You know?
proxy.
hell yeah.
Iceman
like
learns by
Footloose fly.
proxy.
Yeah.
One of my favorite
Footloose.
sequences is I'll say it out loud is the sex scene, because it's beautifully shot. I
Yeah,
think
it
I think
is.
it's a
Very Tony
wonderfully
Scott shot.
stylized shot. I can't remember if there's nudity. There's nudity in it, right?
Very
I don't think so.
no, it's
yeah, I don't
There's
think-
implied.
Silhouetted.
yeah.
Pretty
Okay, because
hardcore.
I think
It's
okay. If there's
hinted
nudity,
at,
Not
whatever.
like here's a butt cheek.
If there isn't any
Yeah.
nudity, then like that's I think how romance love sequences should be. They should be filled with color and passion, but you don't
That,
show
like,
like
blue light.
the
Well, it's
super
like, why are
graphical.
you- it
Like I
depends-
see.
yeah. It's like,
it
what's the purpose of
happening.
the scene? And then it should like abide those rules.
Shouldn't have
Yeah.
to be like here's a dick or a titty.
Right.
And that's how you know it's sex.
Or just like
There are.
intensity
I'll be
of
honest
it,
though.
like-
To defend that, there are scenes that call for those sorts of things.
There are.
oh
but
yeah.
this is not one of them.
Right.
I would say like to me, I kind of relate this to, and also, but this one has nudity in it. Is Terminator 1 with Sarah Connor and spoilers. So when that scene happens, it feels very like passionate, and it's like this is how it, because I feel like there is a little bit of, and I'm not saying your point is exclusive to this, Corey, but I think there's a sense of like sex is almost so thrown into films a lot of the times.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It doesn't feel climactic. It doesn't feel like these two souls are connecting anymore. It just feels
Right.
like this is the logical step when two people have a meet cute. Like, yeah, they're gonna.
I mean,
That's
fuck
why I
in
was
this
very
movie.
careful with saying like there are scenes that call for it.
I mean,
Yeah,
what,
It
I,
has to,
exactly.
it's not just thrown in.
what I think is interesting about that scene is that it was added afterwards to establish their relationship even more. Which I mean,
In-
it's one of those things that it is like kind of
In Top Gun,
yeah. In Top
Oh.
Gun, it was filmed
Served a
later,
purpose
but
in the story.
it is one of those things where I do like that it's done tactfully. It is a beautiful scene to watch. It's very pretty, well shot, and it doesn't feel gratuitous,
except
Yeah.
for the tongues.
which is what I like. So
The tongues were pretty gratuitous.
I mean, I'm half tongue all day.
it's an 80s sex scene. So
Who's
I'm
next?
not gonna give it a pass. There's a lot of '80s movies that do it real well.
Kaylin, Ali.
I
think-
can go.
Ali
Sorry,
will go
Kaylin?
now.
We always do this, you and I, in this endless dance. You know what? This time you go first.
Well, I think
Thomas.
one of my favorite parts was that surprised me also was after Goose passed away and then his wife and son are like sitting in that room and Maverick comes out with a box and I wasn't really sure what she was going to say. And then her line of like, he would have hated flying without you, but he would have done it anyway.
Yeah.
That was a favorite part for me of
Mhm.
like,
Shout out to Meg Ryan too.
Yeah.
yeah, though
I'm
I
waiting for
mean,
mail.
everything about
Love
that whole delivery,
Meg
everything
Ryan.
was
You
great.
got mail.
but it was just sort of like, I feel like that was more the point of the film.
Mhm.
That was kind of the message, is
Be
like,
your own person and
be your own person. You have to keep going on regardless of what life throws at you or takes away from you. Like, for me, that was the climax.
or
of
even
the
there's
movie.
a reality to your actions, whether they're
Yeah.
whether it's your fault or not, which it wasn't. I think, it's definitely like that wake up call moment of like, we're not we're mortal. We're
Very.
not gods in the sky.
Yeah.
And I don't think he remembered that because he fought every single rule before that. So
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right in that sense, that is a huge part of what the story's about.
Yeah. So that's definitely that for me. Ali.
I love the line. Oh, geez, who's the
I have
general with the
The
hat?
Need for Speed. Tom Skerritt's character.
There's a lot
Um,
of hat
him.
people.
Viper?
That is.
Oh, where he's talking about his dad at the end, Tom Skerritt.
That's Viper.
Viper.
I love.
Viper and Jester.
He has a line. He's like, if you don't do this right or something like that, you'll be flying a cargo plane full of rubber dogs, full of rubber dog shit out of Hong
the
Kong.
first
That's
guy.
the first guy.
The first guy, yeah.
Yeah, that guy.
The-
Michael
Slider.
Ironside.
Jester?
He's in
No.
Back to the Future.
No.
No, just kidding.
No. He's in Back
He
to the
plays
Future.
the Dean
Yeah.
in Back to the
Yeah,
Future.
it's
Oh, yeah,
you're
yeah,
a slacker.
Yeah. I loved him in this, and I just loved his like back and forth with Tom Cruise. I had to write down that line because I just
Cougar
loved it
was
so much.
first. Now you're first. You're like, oh shit.
Exactly. But yeah, that's what I call a target rich environment, there at the
Mhm.
bar or whatever. Like it's just a lot of it, like I just love pretty much anytime Goose would speak was pretty much gold.
Yes.
And yeah, just a lot of like one-liners and suave talk. Like I just love that.
Suave.
Riddled throughout.
I think, in all honesty, I'm going to say it also, everyone listening, make your judgment calls now, slip and slide in the DMs, let me know. I loved the volleyball sequences.
The volleyball?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm
Why?
gonna also throw this background in
Why
there.
not?
I used to work at
Fair.
Abercrombie. So seeing shirtless dudes is not something new for me. But like I liked it just because it felt so
Jealous.
like that time frame. It felt so like this is the 80s and people go out with jean shorts to play volleyball.
Short
and it
shorts
somehow
were a
makes sense.
thing, And
And
neon
like
was
this is
a
kind of
thing, and
like it reminded me of does anyone remember
disco
was
just
it
died.
what's the Santa Clara Beach Boardwalk going to the beach?
Santa Cruz.
right? Santa Cruz Beach
Santa
Boardwalk
Cruz Beach
commercials.
Boardwalk and
Yeah.
California style.
Boardwalk. Like
Yeah.
that's what it reminded me of. I'm like, yo, this is so
Us.
that time frame.
That's us.
Yeah, that's
Santa
you.
Cruz
That's
Beach Boardwalk.
that's together.
No, the
Anyways,
movie
but-
Us.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But so yeah, I it just put me in a good nostalgia feel. I'm like, wow, this is how you showed things. Like there was a little bit of pomp and circumstance, and everyone like. I remember I gave a lot of shit to Michael Bay.
Those
when-
gradient filters, baby.
Well, I gave a lot of shit to Michael Bay for having everyone in his movie look sweaty. But man, everyone in this movie
Everybody in this movie
is so
is so
sweaty.
sweaty.
The guy running the
Sweaty.
control panel.
Open a
Trolls,
window.
everyone in the sub or in the carrier, I'm like, yo, so sweaty. And I'm like, I'm about this. Like 5 out of 5 sweats. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the rating.
Well,
Like
they
it's such a
did-
sweaty movie.
They did give you that feel that like it's hot as fuck all the time here. Like
In California.
they had
I'm
those
like, it's not, though.
fans going and everything in the corner. Like they had the we're still sweating, but there are also like fans everywhere to be like, look, we're trying, but it's not.
kind
I
of
working.
believe there's
it
a
kind of
quote. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was like, it kind of felt like everyone's in heat. Everyone's ready to just boink. You know what I'm saying? Like,
It's like everyone's like nervous.
No, I mean, you're not wrong.
all of the
Everyone's
guys,
nervous.
all of them.
There is a quote somewhere where, in lieu of stuff like that, where like that doesn't make any sense. I believe they had a lot of consultants on the film from the actual Navy, and there was at one point they did something, and some guy was like, "Well, no, that wouldn't happen. Any pilot would know that lingo doesn't work." And the director turned to him and goes, "We're not making the movie for those people." And I was like, "Damn, making it for the
Oh.
people who just want to fucking rush." And so I think that
cough,
ties in
cough,
with like
Ollie.
ties in with the fans in California. Like, we're not making it for the people who are gonna be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. So the consultant was like, okay. After that, he's
Well,
like, oh, I'm done.
Never
It's,
mind.
To me, it's like it's a
Wow.
drama. It's a dramatized California, and to me, like,
Yeah.
I've been to San Diego now like 3 times in my life, and I'm like, it's hot, but not that hot.
Not that
I was
hot.
one of
You're
those
not, like,
times.
gonna
I just hope that opening
fry an egg on
sequence. I hope that opening sequence is accurate because like there's a
Probably
lot that I
not.
love about it.
Probably
Probably
not.
not. Probably not.
Knowing from that quote where they were like, they would
No.
never say that. And he goes, doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
And also, just thinking about
Probably a
it,
lot in there that's not real.
also just thinking about it, no way in hell was there be like, oh, there's a make, let's go fucking interact. You know what I mean? Like,
Right, that's true.
The precipice
I
of it's like,
suppose,
it's wrong.
Or
Where it's like,
you'd be in a ton of trouble if you engaged or something, probably.
yeah. And so, I mean, yeah, it's, some would say, and I have friends in the film, who I studied with in the film course, who would just be like, "This is a propaganda machine." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure it is. Take it for what it is. Some propaganda here to get people in the military, but also it's good enjoyment. And also, but it's one of those things where it's like you can't deny the cultural impact that it had. So, to that factor, it's like, yeah, the fucking dogfights were kind of dope. Were really dope. And if you think about it, like, yeah, before that time, there wasn't a lot of films that attempted to like mount a camera underneath an aircraft like that. And so, and even I guess even tinkering with the idea that a woman would be in charge of briefing pilots to become the best of the best of the best was kind of, I think, a cool revolutionary thing because just on the giant screen having a woman in charge in that sense is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So
And
but I
also-
will say,
Oh.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but also like she's more of the scientific part about it, of like even just the physics of it, of like this is not how you do this. Like it was cool to see that scene too when they're in kind of it's not the war room, but it's their classroom, and she's explaining of like, okay, this is why that move was good or what it wasn't, and she's really just
it's right before
explaining
my
like
favorite
the
part.
flight patterns and all this kind of stuff, and it's like it's really neat because it's not just about like, oh, you're flying in a jet, but there's a system to it. There's a reason why this works or doesn't
Protocol.
work.
It's kind of like why Iceman is kind of the biggest asshole in the entire film, but like he's right 90% of the time.
Mhm.
It's like
Yeah.
you're not. It's like the flying is not the problem, but you are the problem. Like you cost everyone their lives when you fly out. You're reckless. You'll kill somebody, and it's like, to me, that's a wonderful self-fulfilling prophecy.
He's
that
not really
happens.
aggressing at all. He's just kind of stating facts in that moment.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
kind of like, hey, look, I worked really hard to get to where I'm at, and I deserve this point. His like privileged assholeness of like, fuck you, you come from that place. I like the other guy, and said like that's where that comes in.
Yeah.
So it muddles his actual message, but
Yeah.
he's
Right.
legit like, I'm going by the book, and like the film kind of talks about like, having the person that's courageous and willing to break the barriers of what's protocol and not to save lives is what wins the day. But in all honesty, like what really wins the wars are the fucking really tactical shit that's like gone by like procedural and has like plans and going off that. But,
Yeah.
Textbook.
Yeah, textbook,
Mhm.
100%. Any other favorite parts?
I do know
I
a fun
did-
fact that Anthony Edwards said that most of his lines were improvised because the script was so skeletal. He's like, a lot of the comedy was found in the moment because we didn't have anything else to go off of. So
Wow.
shout out to him.
I mean, this is one of Tony Scott's first films, right? So I could only assume that's definitely what happened, where he's like, and I'm just going to focus on getting the cool shots and stuff like that. And he's like, let the actors do whatever they want to do so I can make sure I can make their performances look better. So
Yeah.
makes sense.
Wow.
I was going to say, shout out to Michael Ironsides. He hits me in
Hell
such
yeah.
a way because I don't know, like he's such a good military,
Yeah.
like authority. And like, I always thought of
There's a
him
lot of
as
them,
like, if I was going to have a biography of one of my army instructors, I'm having him. Like he exactly is this guy, and I'm like, oh my god, it's so good.
he's
like,
another one of those
just like-
underrated, under the radar actors who just nails every part he's in. 100%.
But
I really like. Oh, sorry. Go.
No, go ahead.
I really like the introduction of Charlie, being at the bar, and then Maverick trying to make his moves, and then she's like, and she still like plays along with the bet so that he can make his like $20 or whatever, and then the next morning seeing him be like, oh no,
Well, we put the
Like-
sunglasses on.
I fucked up.
yeah, those moments are just like chef's kiss, so fulfilling.
That guy that
Uh,
she's out with at the bar is actually the consultant for the film who Maverick is based off of,
Oh.
which is
Oh.
why
Wow.
Maverick's
cool.
name is Peter, because that's that guy's name. I forget his last
No.
name, but that's
Yeah.
Maverick.
Cullen,
Huh.
Peter Cullen, the voice of
That's-
Yeah,
of
exactly.
Optimus
That's what it
Prime.
is. Yeah.
Peter
That's what it is.
No.
Shout out.
But yeah, all of that was great.
What I was gonna say was, I also really like Tom Skerritt's character a lot. Like, he
Always love Tom
he,
Skerritt.
He provides that sense of like, the ghosts again. Like, this
That's
almost
Blue
feels
with
like,
your old man guy, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And that's like, on all honesty, if you just put it in a Green Lantern ring, this whole movie could be a Green Lantern movie. Because that's kind of like Hal Jordan's like fucking like MO. He's like, my dad died as a pilot. Now I want to be a pilot. Now I'm going to be in the Space Force. But Tom Skerritt really provides this whole like, hey, like there's something more to this character that we're not understanding. Like what compels Maverick to do what Maverick does. And I think it operates on that psychological level of like, I think it was almost like the teetering of like now films when we think about military or armed forces films, there cannot be a conversation of the film without PTSD. And I think this film kind of goes into what happens when you become indoctrined into a mindset and a belief in a system. So it was really cool to see like how that formulates, and this is kind of the beginning of those conversations. And Tom Skerritt's character really adds some levity of like, beyond, oh yeah, we're just joy chasing and, going after like the thrill and the rush, that there's a sense of
Reality.
psychological recruitment
Yeah.
that happens within families and going into the military. Because it's kind of like you're a legacy, right? So it's like, oh, everyone's in our family, blah blah. So it was cool to have that, and then plus also he's just like a little a little Dumbledore, a little like,
Oh yeah.
well,
I
everyone
can see
hates
that.
my new boy, but I know him well, like that kind of thing. So
That, I mean,
There's a
that's
lot
very
going on.
fitting. Yeah.
Anyone else?
I love that even though I didn't like things, the scenes that were all just like a lot of this movie was just like the jets zooming around, and then a lot of them being like, you gotta do the thing, go over there, do this, shoot that, lock on, and then I didn't
Lock
really,
up, baby,
like,
lock up.
Yeah, so
I
like
think you nailed it.
the drama
Rick
of
Hine,
all
right.
that was communicated really well, because even though I didn't like fully understand what was happening, I'm like, he's got him. I don't know what he did, but he's doing it, and it's happening right now.
It's
So
I
you
watched
just
it
kind
all
of get like
times.
but, like-
swept up in all of the excitement of like you don't know what's happening, which I feel like
Yeah.
is where some of that like we're not making this for people who are actually in, actually do this for real.
I think
We're
the
making
direct
it,
quote is actually we're making it for Kansas wheat farmers who won't know the difference.
Yep. I may as well be a Kansas wheat farmer because I was like, hell yeah.
Omaha, close enough.
This is so much fun.
It was, yeah.
But no, I think that's a testament to the photography. They always clearly establish like,
What's
the
happening,
logistics of
who's
what's
going
happening in
where.
the fight,
Yeah.
and
and also editing.
yeah, and that too. That's huge.
They did-
You get the information as you needed.
They were only allowed to film. The U.S. allowed them to film 2 missile launches, so they filmed them from 3 angles each, and the same one is used. The same 2 shots are used in the film multiple
And then they
I
just
thought they
flip
looked
it
a
or
little
You know what that is?
familiar.
You know what that is? That's some anime tactics, bro. When they
Oh,
run out of budget,
yes.
reuse the animation.
Just like,
that's some Power
flip,
Rangers type shit,
flip.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I love
Invert
that they went
colors.
over budget so
Yes.
much because I mean, all the plane shots are so expensive.
Yeah,
And
they
it's-
charged
Super.
them just for using the planes. The government charged them $1.8 million, not including
that's
fuel
like-
and everything else.
That's like
Yeah.
cheap though.
Not then, it wasn't.
Not then, but like considering what, because
That's-
this was like government subsidized, yeah.
It was
Like,
I don't know.
$15 million budget. That
So
was
it ate up $2 million
almost-
of their budget, not including the fuel that they have to do to refill it every time, and not
Right.
including the 2 missiles. Just to use the planes was $1.8 million. So
Right.
I'm assuming probably 3 or 4 for everything.
And I think this is one of the
involved. A
earlier
third of the film's
film-
budget, which is crazy.
Earlier, this is one of the earlier films that to do stuff like this. So I don't know if they got a lot of like that military stuff, like Dark Knight. Oh no, Dark Knight. Batman Begins. They got so much military like help, and like the
Right.
military was there the entire time helping them develop things. But like this was like, I don't know, they're making a movie or some shit like that. So I feel like this
even
set the way for
Yeah,
you know,
like all these
And-
consultants and stuff that we see in like modern movies wasn't necessarily the case. Back then they would just the writer wrote based on his or her
Yeah.
experience, and that was pretty much it. But like as the films become more complex and stuff like that, I think we've been seeing more like like an army person come in and make sure that everything's right and all that stuff.
Today, that's $5 million.
Yeah. But
That's a lot.
some of the reading that I had done was along the lines of like for like, yes, that's very expensive, but it was also like they could have been charged far, far more.
oh yeah,
And also like this movie set off the like or was at a time of like you had to get approval from the military down to the script to let the movie come out, basically, because I think X-Men was part of that as well. Like they had to get
the approvals.
right all the approvals.
Yeah, if you
they're-
want to
they're-
name
you-
actual military branch.
Yeah, they're that's why they have military consultants on stuff like that. And they typically have to say, they go like, does this reflect in a way where it doesn't put wrong expectations? It's the same thing with police too, and any armed forces. But yeah,
No
I mean,
more dead cops.
yeah,
They signed
but I
off
mean,
on that.
Yeah, they did. And but I would say like the tough thing is like they could have been charged a lot more, but like coming from someone like me who's made nothing but short but low budget shit, when I had 10,000, I had to spend 2,000 of it on one location. I was like, yo, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of
For
money,
sure.
man.
For sure.
Like it's just hard to like be like, okay, cool. Like we have 15 million. How are we going to divide this amongst the hundreds of people working, the hundreds of hours working, the food that we're going to have to
The
get,
stars.
and now 20% of it is going to be gone to one thing.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
rough.
it's just like a
It
tough,
worked.
like, oh. I mean, like
all
that's the thing
worked.
where it's like it has to sell the realism, right? You have to have the production value to go into it. So like, thank goodness that it did, because again, like I said, it's a cultural thing. We're seeing the sequel, so
Yeah.
I want to know how much it costs to make Hobbiton now.
probably
Lord.
the entire GDP of New Zealand because they destroyed it. So let's move to
New Zealand fronted a lot of that money because they made so much off tourism, though.
yeah, and
They wanted people to come.
Anyway.
Go ahead. I could talk to you about that all off camera, Ollie.
yeah. Well,
No worries.
let's go
I was
into
making a joke.
favorite characters.
Goose.
Let's do two characters.
hard not
Two
to.
There's a reason that Captain Marvel's cat is named Goose, and it's because
Wow.
it's such a great character. I was
you
not
know-
lying when I said he's the Mercutio of this movie. In
never thought
Romeo and
about
Juliet, if Romeo and Juliet had died, but Mercutio came out and like gave this beautiful speech because he's Mercutio and he's interesting,
all
he's
felt
fascinating.
fine.
Everything would have been a tragedy. It'd be like, oh, it was a love story. It
Oh,
ends
that really
sad, but it's
sucks,
not a
but
tragedy.
At least there's that.
But Shakespeare goes, okay, I've made too interesting of a character. He has to die. The same thing happened here. I think, especially if they improvise all their lines, I think they were like, okay, we've made too interesting of a character here. He has to die. Because I cared more about Goose than I did about anyone else. Honestly, like, especially with him giving the speech like that, being upset after being yelled at for the 10,000 feet in the flyby and being like, guys,
Having a beautiful
where's that truck
family.
driver thing? Like loving his son and like singing at the piano and like that kind of stuff. I was all in for Goose, all 100%. And if he had made it to the end, I would have been like, I don't give a fuck what happened in this movie. This movie's about Goose.
Do you know Captain Marvel's cat's real name in the comic books?
Yes, Chewie.
Yeah,
Chewie,
so,
that's right.
Chewbacca.
Oh wow.
Same thing, baby. That's why we're
Huh.
still okay with Star Wars.
Yeah.
But
Co-pilot. They're both co-pilots. That's why. But yeah,
so Goo-
it's definitely
do you have a-
Goose.
do you have a second?
I wasn't prepared for that.
Haha.
I'm on the odd team of I don't like Maverick. I don't as an older
I
as
don't
being
know if
20
that's
years
an
older.
odd team.
Okay, good. Because I just I up until the end I was like, you blew it big time. I liked either Tom Skerritt's character Viper or Iceman was far more interesting to me. I thought Tom Skerritt, I have a bias towards Tom Skerritt as well. But I thought every scene he was in, he towed this line of like, look, I got to be firm. I have to be fair to everyone else. But at the same time, I recognize game, and this kid's got it. and telling them away from him, like, put him in the air as soon as you can. I know this kid. I know how he works. Put him in the air as soon as you can. And then he fails, and they're like, well, what now? And he's like, put him back up. Get him up there. He needs this. So Tom Skerritt. Viper.
Yeah, he's old white guy with a beard.
Can't argue that, dude. Can't argue that.
Well,
Got him. Who's next?
Can't argue that.
Mine are Goose and then Iceman, for very good reasons, and also I just love Iceman's. What? Val Kilmer. I love Val Kilmer.
Love him.
I heard
Played by
that
Bobby
he
Drake.
actually didn't want to do this movie either. He was like,
He was forced
actually,
to.
it was his contract that obligated him to do this movie. Otherwise, he wouldn't have
That's
done
correct.
it. But I don't know the reason behind why he didn't want to do it.
Just not interested. He is so the thing about Val Kilmer is he is a character actor of substance. And I don't want to knock this film. Not a whole lot of substance as far as character
fair.
development goes, not only for his character, but there's no like deep
It's not
renaissance, right? Yeah. So I think for him, he read the script, which was quoted as being skeletal, and was like, I'm not doing this. But then was forced to.
Wow.
That's my thought process behind it.
I loved him in The Saint. Anyways, Josh.
So good, dude.
I'm gonna say Goose. I just really love watching him on screen. I love the interactions with Maverick. I love watching him with his family. He's just a good dude. Corey has already gone into why he is a good dude. There's so many cool things about him. Second, I mean, there's a lot of
Goose, baby.
I even love Charlie. I thought she was a cool character to kind of put Maverick in his place. I mean, Jester is cool.
I said two.
Viper is cool. I'm just saying who's cool, so I have to narrow it down to two. I'm allowed to speak my mind. I'll
Tom.
say Charlie. I'll narrow it down to Charlie. I
right.
liked her putting
So
Maverick.
Goose and Charlie.
Yeah, Goose and Charlie.
All right, who's next?
Caitlin.
I go. Charlie's my favorite. She knows her shit. She knows like what's happening, how people are, why they're doing it. She called him out and was like, listen, there are some official things I can't say. She kind of had that like Iceman like part. Iceman. You know
Robert
the
Iceman.
Iceman?
Spider-Man.
But she had that part where she was like, listen, there's a textbook way to do things, and I have to adhere to that. That is my job. So I can tell you personally my feelings, but I have to keep things textbook for my job. Like
At work.
I just loved how she had all of her moments of like being human, being a professional, being knowledgeable, like sticking to her guns on shit. Like she was really cool. And then other than that, yeah, I do like Iceman.
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 Bob Iceman.
Just like he you can tell, yeah, he's a little cocky, but he also worked really hard to get where he was. And
It's Bruce Lee, baby.
he was frustrated by other people who he can see the potential of, but sees them like wrecking themselves over and over.
Goddamn flyboy.
Yeah. So yeah, those are my picks. Charlie and Iceman. Iceman.
Iceman.
I flipped mine. Mine's Iceman, then Charlie.
Goose.
I
Oh,
can see
Charlie.
that.
No,
Okay.
because and I'll say this because you haven't mentioned it yet with Charlie. What I really liked about her was at the beginning, she was very manipulative. And I really liked that. Cause like she was like, I know how to get what I want and how to manipulate you to get it with you thinking you're gonna get what you want. And I'm like, that's a good ass character. That's a really good character. You know what I mean? Like, not a lot of characters are written so well when they're manipulating that way. Like, they're very just like in the shadows, and then out of nowhere, it's like, you did everything. It's like, well, no shit, it was that character because they weren't involved. So it's a Scooby Doo formula. This one's like, oh, we're gonna see her do it because this is the meet cute, and she's gonna use that meet cute for the push pull, and then she's gonna pull that thing to go like, all right, she's getting what she wants. And so I'm like, that's really cool, like to learn about the MIG. But then also Iceman, like to Corey's point, as a kid, I liked Maverick. As an adult, I liked Iceman because it's just like, you know, you need to have the Maverick character to sell the dreams.
Cool.
And then you need the
for
Iceman be like,
speed. Wah.
this is the real
Hard work.
It's like the
accountable
example. Yeah.
shit. You know, you need to be this accountable about your actions.
Oh, hell yeah.
So yeah, that's it for me. Moving on to qualms.
Qualms.
Gripes.
Two qualms.
Two each. I'll
Who
go
wants to go?
first. This
Go
is
ahead.
a big
You go.
one for me. And this
It's
is
the
what
tongue.
I think as an adult. Okay, that's my asterisk. Like that tongue was like, no.
It's tongueless.
It was just a bit much. So for me, this is what, as an adult, as someone who likes to think that they ingest film and try to make sense of it all, nothing felt earned in this for me. The revelation with his dad, I was just kind of like, cool. They kind of touch on it twice. And then there's this whole thing about, but it was never like something I felt that was eating at him. I felt like it was a couple side comments. And to be honest, until that scene with Tom Skerritt, I was like, oh yeah, his dad. He doesn't know what happened to him.
What about my past?
I thought I get why they killed off Goose. The way they did it just felt very Joss Whedon-y to me. So with me understanding it had to happen, the way it happened, I was kind of like, it's fucking bullshit, man. And the biggest part for me that made Charlie not my favorite character, because otherwise she would have, was after this kid's a total fucking prick for a majority of the time she knows him. She chases him down after knowing him for a week and is like, I'm falling for you. And you're like, bullshit. You are stronger and smarter than that girl, and you know it. And
Not no character in the 80s is though. But
I
yeah,
know,
it
and
sucks.
I
That's why it
understand to
sucks.
an extent it's a product of time, but again, we also have movies like Beverly Hills Cop. We also have movies like Flashdance, like these movies that were able to create this romance through a film that wasn't necessarily like Beverly Hills Cop, not a romance film, but it happens anyway.
Well,
it feels
it's
like
not
it
like I
started
fall in
felt
love.
more earned.
It's not like I fall in love with you after a week, and it's like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
like
So,
very.
It felt like
movie.
they decided to make her like more intelligent and more like, you know.
They made her so smart,
Well,
and then
and
just
then
all
they
of a
forgot
sudden
the
we're
other
like, I got a
checkboxes
case
that
of the bad
creates.
boy, and I
Well,
need some now.
and
Like
to
the
that
other
point,
implications
like,
if she is
again,
a smarter person.
growing up with Schwarzenegger and Stallone films, like they were trying to crossbreed what Corey is trying to strive for, but then instead it kind of shows the blemishes of both.
Yeah.
And so it's very interesting. Where it's like, and that's where I'm like, oh, it's good, but why?
Yeah. And so for me, it just, none of those things that are supposed to be these key points of this movie are I guess earned isn't the right. They don't feel like they spent the time to let these things flourish. And if that scene had happened towards the end of the movie, I would have bought it more. But it's so early on that I'm just like, girl, no, you know this.
You know.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'll go ahead.
And so, that was kind of it. It just it reminded me that this director was like, we're making it for fucking Kansas wheat farmers who don't know the difference. And like that shines. Now that I know that after watching this movie, I'm like, damn, yeah. They didn't really, they were just like, this is where the start of that fucking ADD filmmaking started. Like, let's just lean into that group of people. They don't need substance. They just need fighter pilots, sex scenes, and jokes, and the military.
Intention matters.
And baby,
And
Attention matters a
that's
lot.
where we're gonna lay, and we're gonna hit the marks, but we're really not gonna dive into them. And that was my biggest qualm walking away from this movie as
Well, and it
a
makes
30-year-old.
It makes sense with saying that it was a really skeletal script, that we had these points we needed to hit, and we're going to fill it in as best we can. But if it's not more developed than that, then we can't really dive too much deeper without getting a writing credit.
Yeah. And I would almost say that if you got a script that skeletal, don't make it. But I mean, who am I to say that it made,
It did great.
it did fine. But from a story standpoint, I don't think it did.
Yeah.
Fair.
I mean,
I think. Go ahead, Josh.
I was just gonna say, because mine is kind of my walking away from this film, of seeing it, preparing for this episode, and being of a different mind. It was kind of like I felt like it was a soap opera with jet engines. Like there were just so many moments that I was just like,
That's perfect.
it was just like,
I mean, you're
like
not
you're
wrong.
saying, Corey, like, yes, I say Charlie is one of my favorite characters, but there are moments like I hate the portrayal of like love in movies, of like, we've known each other for a week and I'm falling for you. And I'm like, that's not.
I might kill myself in traffic.
Especially
to chase
after the moment
you.
he just revved his fucking Kawasaki motorcycle. Was like, I can't hear you. And then drives off. And she's like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to say I love you. And you're like, if I was trying to say that and the guy was like, I can't hear you, and drove off, I'd be like, Okay, maybe I need to reassess some
that is-
things about who
like-
I'm falling for
Yeah.
here.
I know.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of examples of like good, well done things, but that is like a very mainstream trope. That's like such a mainstream trope of when romantic interests meet, they don't like each other, or there's clash between them, and so like to me, it's like it's so much part of its DNA of the time, you know, where it's like that is what a massive audience was expecting, like
Sure.
because
There's
like
of course examples of that
95%.
time.
Yeah,
that
it's like
don't
there's
fall into
more
that.
examples of the bad way doing it than the good way doing it.
Yeah.
But the good ways are the ones that we stick in our minds. But like,
Yeah, and
just
I
have the
think
kind of thing
that's-
of like,
That's what's happening is I know movies where it's possible, made in the same year, that have done it to an extent that there's still movies I watch to this day and go, this is fucking amazing. And so I have a hard time giving it a pass for that reason.
no, yeah. I just feel like that's why it's kind of like it is soap opera, because I think
Yeah.
also during the time, like in the 80s, that was when the soap operas were huge. You know, like this is
Yeah,
like
yeah,
also
yeah.
right before Jag and fucking
Yeah.
Walker Texas Ranger. You know,
You
what I mean,
almost
like
want some of the
it's
lines
all
to be
that shit.
delivered like, oh, like
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
there was just so many things that
well,
you were
I
like,
just the zooms, baby.
Zooms.
and some of like the
Uh,
quips like of the other the pilots, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's really like
Yeah.
my only qualm of the film overall. Soap opera with wings and a jet engine. It was just like, okay.
Mhm.
Next.
Okay.
Caitlin,
Next
Ali.
person.
For me, it had to do with basically the depth for the most part. I mean, you kind of touched on this quite a bit. But yeah, it just everything was so well polished and well presented, but you know, it was all surface level details, and you know, you had a little bit of depth here and there, and I think some of the character stuff kind of like with the girlfriend kind of was starting to go somewhere, and I could feel a little bit happening there, but it felt a little forced ultimately, and things like that. So yeah, I mean, it's well presented, but as soon as you try to take a closer look at any of these situations, they kind of fall apart a little bit narratively.
Except for Goose.
Except for Goose.
That's where most of the
And
depth came.
I kind of agree. I don't like having seen this so long ago. I hadn't remembered exactly the details of his death scene, and then watching it again, reminding myself of what actually it was. I was right there with you, Corey. I was like, this is BS. Why did it happen? Like, there's so many more impactful ways it could have happened.
Yeah.
With how much ramping up you do for that character, and just to pay him, like, just to kind of joss him like that. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
And Jost, baby. Caitlin?
For me, it was, that the relationship with Charlie and Maverick just made me be like, oh no. And like
Girl.
she even says like Goose's wife is like, take me to bed or I'll leave you forever, something like that. But like later on, Charlie says that to Maverick, and I'm like, you guys are such a bad match that you had to take Goose's wife's line to make it feel more real.
Yeah.
Didn't like
I didn't. That's. Yeah. When she said it, I was like, no, because that moment between Goose and I can't remember Meg Ryan's character to save life of me.
But it was amazing.
It was sweet. It was a sweet little moment of like some good old Kansas country love, like.
Well, it's also
and I
it's
just-
under the
we're on the Kansas
under the
hard
context
right
of
now.
like it's a married couple too. So
Yeah.
it's like it
Yeah.
has that layer of like, oh,
who have a
that's kinda
kid
nice.
and like, you know, I just.
But this is like a young
they have
couple
a
who's
happy
still
life.
honeymooned. It's like, why?
so to see them like kind of snatch that line was the epitome of like my problem with that is like y'all aren't even close to what that is. And then just it was very well tempered, but the machismo got like annoying at several points. That's
It's
pretty
like
much it for
Disney
me.
princess level of damaging young girls.
Yes.
yeah.
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 The flip it. That's it.
It's like, oh, we could after a week of just having sex, we could say things like that. It's like,
Oh, I just meant the machismo was like the
also,
level of
but
equivalent.
He's
of,
talking
like,
about the
damaging little
relationship
girls,
between.
like,
Yeah. Both.
yeah.
both in both directions,
Tom?
or a
for
multitude
me,
of directions, I guess.
Tom Skerritt.
One is what kind of I think is going to encapsulate all of it. This film hasn't aged as well as it could.
Yeah.
And under 2020 under 2020 eyes, it just you could kind of see the blemishes of what time was like back then and what
Mhm.
people were looking forward into their blockbustery films.
Yeah. The expectations
but
have
it-
changed.
Yeah. And then my second qualm, and it's more of, again, it's a discussion piece for me. I don't know if this film serves better as a multifaceted film that touches a lot of topics or as a TV pilot that was going to go on for 5 seasons. Because which one do you want to focus on?
If this
Is
was
it
a
the
TV show, I would
do you want to
like it
focus
more.
on the rivalry of Maverick and Iceman? So, courage or textbook? Do you want to focus on the friendship of Goose and Maverick, single life or husband life? Do you want to focus on the tragedy of Maverick's past, so childhood trauma in an establishment? Do you want to focus on the romance between Maverick and his love relationship, so it's a rom-com or a CW show in the military? So there's like a lot of things, and I think you could say a film could be multifaceted in a positive light, where I'm going to say this film is a little like there's so much going on to just try to throw as much as it needs to be like, I want to figure out more of that stuff.
That was
And
gonna be
that's
my
what-
second qualm. 100%. It was like I just
And
felt like there was
that's-
too many threads, too many story threads.
I think that's probably what prevented it from diving into one of the things.
Yeah, and I
enough.
think it's
Definitely.
kind of one of those things like under a bad light you call it unfocused. Under a positive light you call it multifaceted, right? So like does one really touch on the other? Does Goose and Maverick's relationship affect Iceman's and Maverick's relationship? I don't know. Does
No.
that affect Charlie's and Maverick's relationship? I don't know. But does Maverick's like weird trauma to his childhood affect how all those relationships work? Possibly. Could they have written it better? Possibly. It's kind of like when you
It's
think
like all
of The
these
Dark
happen.
Knight,
Yeah.
all the relationships kind of affect each other.
Yeah.
And everything that's happened to Bruce Wayne affects what
There's
he
so many
affects, why he
potential
touched on everyone
important
else.
plot points that you're like with the dad thing, it's like Corey, what you said, it's like it's an unearned detail at the end of the day
Yeah.
of like
Well-
you're like that could have been a really cool story point, but
But you just have
Well,
Tom
and
Skerritt
to
say it to
be-
him.
yeah.
To
on a
be
walk.
fair, though, like even though they're not developed, their effect is still like it's still done in a way that you come away from the movie being like, well, it's pretty good.
Well, I
Like-
I
mean,
think that's the performances.
You do.
I'm
I do.
I'm looking forward to the sequel
Me too, though.
because I
It
want to
looks amazing.
see. Hopefully, the death of Goose is still weighing on Maverick, and
finally
how
get to
those
dive in,
relationships
hopefully.
get impact all his other relationships have been.
Mhm.
Because I'll tell you right now, it doesn't look like Charlie's in that fucking movie. So
No.
that's
Of course
I don't know
Jennifer
what's going on
Connelly
with
all
that.
day. All day, all
Yeah,
day.
so I don't know. But anyway, so like that's the thing where it's like, okay, cool. Now we've seen trauma. Now, how is this trauma going to affect this character's development with other characters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And will that affect
Does
the
he
plot
learn
in
from
order
it?
for them to
My
do that?
hopes are not high.
My hopes are very
My-
high.
Mine are. Even as someone
Only
who
be-
walked away from this movie not enjoying it that much, from the trailer, here's the thing also, in the time since this, 34 years since this movie come out,
Sounds
Tom
right?
Cruise has become a much better actor.
Yeah.
That's true.
This
He's
was
got
only
he's
his.
got- oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna shout out to my two other favorite characters, Tom's unibrow and Tom's teeth.
Yeah.
So before
in
he
this-
got all that shit done.
in this new trailer, so he's 34-year veteran actor. He's become a much better actor in that time. And I know, I don't know who said it here. Who's like, I know Tom's crazy, but I'm a fan. Who said that? Josh.
Tom, I think.
I think Tom Cruise films are so much fun.
No,
I
I
think
love
they're-
anytime I know that he's going to be in a movie, I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm in.
it's kinda
I think movies, especially his underrated ones like Night and Day. I loved that movie.
Mhm.
I thought that was hilarious.
Everyone go on
so
the ground. If you don't, I'll kill her. Then I'll kill me. Then
kill
I'll
myself
kill
and then I'll kill the girl. So I'm excited for that alone because he's bringing his A game to this. I think he, as a veteran of the actor world, knows the weight that comes along with this. You also have actors like Miles Teller. You have Ed Harris. You have Jennifer Connelly. I mean, these are all, in my mind, A-listers in my heart. Like I've loved every single movie these people have done. And the cinematography looks fantastic, and how we've come along with film language and
Just writing
even just
in general.
technology and writing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a huge step forward for the franchise.
Well, that's what makes me so excited, because watching the first one and realizing like the last few movies that Tom Cruise has made, and all the crazy stunt work that goes involved with that. Like that's what I'm excited for. You know, even though I have my apprehensions about the story, I know it's going to be a good time, like based on just that. And then I'm hoping that it does have like a deeper exploration of the character and his past. And stuff like that, so.
And I mean, it's supposed to be him teaching. So again, it's always a kind of a wonderful development to see someone who was a student now become a teacher.
Honors the first movie.
Again, like they're to me, there's only up you could technically go if you just wrote it well. Like there's so much good that can
you have to remember also that they got franchise money now.
Yeah.
This was before that no one was like, this isn't going to work. This movie's,
All
we didn't
those
spend time
tickets to
writing
Kings
it.
Island.
We didn't do whatever. But now they got like,
Tom Cruise
we're
still
putting all
behind
our
it.
eggs in a basket. We've hired probably the best writers, best editing team, that kind of
If
shit.
Tom Cruise wants to come to you
Right.
and say, let's make another Top Gun, you better make another Top Gun.
I think Chris McQuarrie did the story, who did the last two Mission Impossible. So
Yeah, which are
it's going to be
great movies.
Great. Okay, so now let's move on to the last part of the show, which is going to be our rating. So who goes first? Or give us the order.
It's going to
Corey.
be Ali and
Cor-
Corey, and then Josh and Tom, and then Caitlin.
I can start us off.
Yeah, go for it.
I give this movie a very solid 4. Because at the end of the day, with all of its little issues as we've outlined, I still love the performances. I love the one-liners. I love the music, the cinematography. All those things make me feel good, and that's important in a movie for me.
So good.
And there's a give and take. So for me, I'm gonna hit it right at there, a strong 4. Yeah.
I weigh on the side of the critics for this one, unfortunately. It is sitting at a strong 3.3, and giving it credit for the time it was made, I'll give it a 3.3.
3.3. Josh, you go first. No alphabetical.
I'm gonna give it a
Lock up, baby.
yeah. I'm always afraid to when I'm about to give something 3.8.
Okay.
3.8.
Yeah, 3.8. I still dig the movie. I don't think it's perfect. There are lots of things that I enjoy about it. But yeah, 3.8.
Tom?
I am also at a solid 4. And there's a subjective score, and then there's the objective score, right?
Yeah.
So again, this is the objective score of
I had to
saying,
break the rules and I had to do that, but go ahead.
This is the well.
Just
I've
lower
said this
that fire right back at you, bud. I'm just playing
I
around.
love it.
Do
I
whatever.
love it.
What's the subjective or objective one?
Well, the objective is mainly, and that's what I think is at the end of the day, that's what counts is the objectiveness. Is because I will say the filmmaking for it is above everything else. It stands above everything else. Like I can really, to Sam Corey's point, where it's like I can take or leave the writing because like the writing is take it or leave it really. But the way that they made the film and shot it and the way it looks, it's to me, I'm like, you don't get this anymore. You don't get well-made, constructed, beautiful shots anymore. And you do get it from a few people, but you know how much money they make? $100 million.
Yeah.
They don't make that much money anymore. And to be in this time where it's like, see guys, you can do a blockbuster budget and still have style to it and have color to it and have, emotion involved in your framework, not just be like, oh, look, it looks like a TV show in a franchise. And so, you know what I mean? Like, so that gives it so much more credence than my subjective feeling of it. Cause it's one of those films that like, if it's on, I may not watch it. I'm like, stop then. It's there.
What's the subjective score then?
No, I don't talk about that.
Oh, okay.
Well, because
Mine are one and the same.
I do two scores out there, then it's like that breaks.
Or you just find the average between the two and go from there.
Cool. Yeah.
Anyway,
It's like, what's your
Caitlin, that
personal
leaves us to
user
you.
score?
I went into this movie expecting to hate it
Sure.
Wow.
because I don't like things that are I don't know, military, armed forces, anything like that is just normally I start tuning out because it's a lot of machismo and that's just.
Oh, I was
way.
gonna say you
Dana's
don't
the
like
same way.
the slippery slope of where chauvinism kind of gets involved.
It's like how I am with like big
Correct.
CGI scenes. Suddenly I just like glaze over and I'm like, I don't know what happened.
Exactly. That's
I have
me.
no
to a
idea.
T. So I came out of this movie thinking like it changed some of my perception of all of that. So I give it more credit because of that perspective shift. And I will set it at a 4.2 because it's still got a
you-
lot of problems.
You
Don't like the movie.
liked the movie.
I like the movie.
Yeah, you give it over a 4. So that means
I have
I'm
a
the
lot of
grump
problems
the week,
with it,
baby.
which is why I hesitate so much. There's a lot of things that I'm not fond of in this movie that
Well,
like
yeah, again,
Yeah.
like it hasn't
Pushing-
aged that well.
Then give it a
it
solid
hasn't
4.
aged so I give it a 4.2
Well, no.
because of the entertainment value that I got out of it and how it proactively shifted some of my perspective on like armed forces.
Yeah.
Okay.
We always
Feel
say
like-
the
It
grump.
humanized
Is that
it humanized armed forces a lot more for me because most of the people I've come in contact with that were part of the armed forces have painted a very negative light. Like
that sucks.
very negative light. It sucks a lot. But so I give this more credit because it actively gave me a perspective shift.
Sure. Yeah.
And
I
only
like that.
because
there has sadly been a very clear line of like the people who have drawn a really positive light for the armed forces in my life and the people who
Mhm.
haven't.
Same.
But I will say, makes me want to kind of do a Predator episode now.
Yeah, I'm down.
I'm in.
But with that,
Totally in.
I am the grump of the week.
Corey
So
is the grump.
I just
Shout
wanted
out-
to point out, Caitlin,
Shout
real
out to-
quick.
Yes.
wait, I got to give a shout out first to
Shout
the
'em
Nerd On
out.
Nation because I'm not
Shut the
stealing
fuck
that from
up,
them.
Ollie.
Dana P
One moment.
for guessing correctly.
Oh, wow.
You are the gum. What is it, Tom?
The gump.
You are the
Grump-
guess that
Grump-
gator
Grump-
grumper
Gresser-
guesser gator gal.
It changes
Yeah.
everything.
Ollie,
But
we need you
also,
to make a
that's
banner.
cheating.
And they make a banner.
All the
That's
words
cheating. She
All
looked
of
into
it
your notebook before we
spirals
recorded.
in.
breaking the JPEG going on inside.
No, sir.
I just wanted to point out, we always say that just because you get the lowest score doesn't mean you like dislike the movie or whatever. But I think we're also the other way to defend your score. Like the other way applies too. Just because you're the highest score doesn't mean you like doesn't mean it's your favorite movie. Doesn't mean you love it.
No.
You just have
Again, there hasn't been a lot of scores for Kaylin that's less than 4 since
It's
she
pretty
was born.
hard to get me to rate things below a 4.
And for
Yeah.
Ollie, there
Because-
hasn't been a lot of things above 3s that aren't Disney. So
Well,
yeah.
I to me, my score is more entertainment value
Batman.
based. Like, did I enjoy my experience in some capacity? Then yes. But I also remove a lot of the, like it would be you
Baggage.
would have to really, really be personally jarring for me to drop below a 4, and
Yeah.
and me have a lot of personal beef with something to be below a 4 hot rod.
this is the part where
So-
someone goes back and is like,
Pulls all
one of
the-
our fan like pulls out the thing. You're just like, I just didn't
Caitlin
like it that
has
much.
beef with all these films. What will the
like
director
two,
say?
like one,
clickbait.
like maybe 2 films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Caitlin said she didn't like a movie. Bum,
So
bum,
yeah,
bum,
that
bum.
Caitlin
I
has a
think
personal problem
that's
with
that.
Tony
I'm the grump. We're here. I'm with Tom. I don't think I would if it was on TV. I probably wouldn't watch it. I'm sad a little bit because as a kid I did love this movie, but now it is just like a.
It's an interesting perspective change because I had the same experience.
It is interesting to shift that perspective to be like, I probably won't watch this movie again.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, it's
I'm in
good
the
to
same boat
know
with you
that
there.
it, yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
probably like if this was on again, I'd be like, yeah, I'm good.
It's
wanna-
bizarre.
Yeah.
It message received. I don't really want to see it again.
Just go watch a Goose Line compilation on YouTube.
You know what?
You'll get the satisfaction.
I might. I just might.
yeah.
Hey, you know what? Me, Captain America? No, I don't think I will.
Awesome.
Exactly. There you go.
Oh, here it is. Caitlin has beef with fast color.
Ah.
Oh yeah, I do.
Anyways,
All right.
sing us out, Josh.
Everybody at home, thank you so much for listening or watching if you are on YouTube. We really appreciate all of you. If you are new to Nerd On, check out our website, nerdon.tv. It has all the information about everything that we do. Do stop by, rate and review us wherever you listen, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you listen. It does help us to grow and to be better. Do check out the Nerd On Nation, nerdon.io/Patreon, and our Discord, nerdon.io/Discord. But yeah, that has been it. We have done the thing. We appreciate you all. We love you. You know the
landed.
drill. As always, Nerd On.
Nerd on.
broadcast.